You can make $8,000 a day seal coating. And in this video, my buddy Chris is going to take us through a recent job that he did, how he got it, how he priced it, the upsells, as well as everything that went wrong. So that way, if this is a service that you're thinking about adding to your business, you can know all of the good stuff as well as all of the bad. But if you'd like to learn more from Chris in person, be sure to check out the first link in the comment section and the description. That is going to be a form to in-person training with Chris. And if you can't make it in person, don't worry. Check out the second link in the comment section description. That is going to be to the How to Stripe course, where Chris is going to walk you through everything you need to know in order to build a profitable parking lot striping business. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the video. All right, Chris, so let's start off by just telling us a little bit about this job, how you landed it, and what it's kind of comprised of.
Yeah, we landed this job from something that we teach within the How to Stripe course. That is how to locate decision makers by utilizing county assessors maps. It has been beneficial and really revolutionary in our business because it has allowed us to bypass gatekeepers and then contact decision makers directly by utilizing this specific methodology. So when we got in contact with this customer, initially he owned a Little Caesars franchise with 37 locations. Whenever I made contact with him, called him up, I already knew his name. I already knew how many locations they had. I reached out, didn't ask him to pay me, didn't try to sell him on anything. I simply made contact and I said, hey, I love the product. I'd love to stripe one of your locations for free. Won't charge you anything. And he said, great. He was surprised that a contractor would be willing to do that. Well, when I went there, I striped the location for free. It had like 10 lines, an access aisle, and a handicap symbol. Took us less than an hour to do it. And as a result of doing that one property for this customer, the next job that he asked us to do was to crack fill, seal coat, and stripe his office, which was, I think it was close to like a 10 or 11,000 square foot property on top of the rest of his locations that we acquired just by simply utilizing what we teach in the How to Stripe course and then striping one of these properties for free. And it was, it ended up being very beneficial for us.
Awesome, man. So was the Little Caesars, the first one that you did for free, was that kind of earlier on in your business? And what did that timeline look like between doing that first one for them and then actually landing this job?
Sure. Yeah. It was early on in our business, and we did that to establish brand recognition within the community. We wanted to do this early on to establish ourselves as a reputable company in the area. And then we just like doing charitable work like that anyways. I mean, that's just what we do. It's one of our things within our company that we like to do. I striped that job last year, kind of late fall. And then a couple months later, that's whenever we went to go back and crack fill, seal coat, and stripe his office.
Okay, beautiful. So I wanted to ask that question just so that way anybody listening to this can kind of understand that it's not always about that instant gratification. I think that's where a lot of people lose it in business. Is it's really about who has the most patience, right? So you did the first job for free. It took a little bit of time in order to kind of do some extra work for him, and then it took a little bit more time to get this $8,000 job. So just because it doesn't come after the first free thing you do, that doesn't mean that that kind of way about going and doing business doesn't work. And I wanted to ask you another question with regards to doing that work for free, Chris, kind of how you established the relationship with this guy. Has anybody ever taken advantage of, you know, your kindness with that first job, or have you kind of found that everybody that you do that first work for free kind of really appreciates it, and you know, you can build a relationship with them from there?
Sure. I firmly believe that it has to do with something about the target demographic. We have essentially replicated this process with multiple customers that we have. We did it with Little Caesars. We did it with Sonic. And as a result of doing this in the beginning, it allows us to acquire multiple properties. And the list goes on and on. I mean, you know, we service multiple chains in our state. And early on in the front end, whenever I was building our reputation, that was something that was absolutely necessary, because when you're starting off in the space, you don't have any social proof. People don't trust you. They don't know who you are. You're just one contractor among many. So it takes a long time to build that reputation. But if you do it right, and you do it in such a way where we teach in the How to Stripe course, multiple ways of customer acquisition, if you replicate that same process as you go on and you progress in your business, you go from cold contact outreach to where your phone stays blowing up every single day. So it takes a little bit of time, but if you're willing to invest the time to build that brand, it will yield a high return for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just a little bit of a different way than a lot of people go about doing business. But obviously, as you know, when you do things differently, you get a different result. And I would say that that is a major contributor to the success that you've had in your business. Now, Chris, I want to get back to this job a little bit. So how did you kind of do this quote for this one? I know it incorporated some seal coating and some striping. Did you quote them out separately, or was it a package deal? What that look like?
It was a package deal. I used Quote IQ for my measurements. I was able to go to my map feature tool. And what I like about Quote IQ is I could sit directly from my desk. Now, I've put eyes on the property, but what I like about Quote IQ is the fact that I can use the map measurement tool feature that allows me to get my square footage parameter. So it's not just designated for pressure washing, but you can also use it for striping. You can use it for seal coating. You can use it for lawn care. I mean, it's versatile in its application in regards to your business. I was able to sit at my desk. I measured the square footage using Quote IQ. And then when we finally put together the quote, we were more expensive on the front end to seal coat the properties because it was a warm lead. He had asked for it. Since he was a warm lead, I was able to charge more on the front end for that seal coating job. I think we got like 40 cents per square foot on the seal coating, and then maybe more than $1 on the crack filling. And then with the striping, I was able to be a little bit cheaper on the back end because I had charged so much for the crack fill and the seal coating. Then whenever I had my measurements and my numbers all put together, I was able to open my Quote IQ app and I was able to plug in the customer, itemize it between seal coating, crack filling, and line striping. I did not include material cost. I didn't break it down and itemize it in that way, but I just gave a flat rate for seal coating, a flat rate for crack filling, and then a flat rate for line striping.
Right. For anybody who doesn't know, that's a good way to go about it because it lends itself to not opening up a conversation with, the homeowner or the business owner on price per whatever the square footage is, whatever the job is. Because when you have a price per crack fill, it's like, oh, well, can we get a little bit cheaper on each crack fill? But when you kind of blanket it, it just allows for less visibility on the customer's end to kind of negotiate. So I like the way that you did that, Chris. That's one of the beautiful things about this service, right? Is all of the add-ons that you can add on. Like you have the crack fill, you have the seal coating, and then you obviously have the parking lot striping. Is there any other services that are add-ons, particularly with seal coating?
Yeah, there are several things. You can add pothole repair, asphalt patching. You could charge a little bit more for the prep work. If the area that you're sealing is overgrown with trees and you got to cut back a significant amount of trees, you can charge for the landscaping. There are, whether there's wheel stop installation, broken wheel stops, wheel stop repair, signage installation. I mean, once you get your foot in the door with the initial service, then you can upsell the customer based upon things that you see within the lot. And we use that in Quote IQ all the time whenever we use our options estimate within the options estimate. So we're able to educate the customer, list all the upsells and the essentials, and the customer is able to select what they want. And a lot of times they go for all the options that are presented.
And that's exactly what we want. Obviously, the more things that we sell, the more money we make. Now, Chris, you made a lot of money on this job and you guys did a great job, obviously, but how long did this whole thing take?
This whole job took us under 11 hours. We had a crew of people out there. It took a significant amount of time for the prep work. We got a power broom and we got a torch where we cleaned out the cracks in the grass. That's really what took the longest, was the prep work and then the crack filling. Because once we fired up the seal coating tank, I mean, it probably took less than an hour to spray all that. And then, so that took a little bit amount of time. Then we had to let it cure, obviously. And then we had to come back once it was cured and then stripe it. So all together, to finish that project, it was over $8,000 and it took us a little under 11 hours.
Okay, awesome, man. And so obviously it looks pretty easy from the video that we're watching, but tell me, what's the hardest part about seal coating?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that are very difficult about it because you want to make sure that there's proper adhesion of the sealer, right? So if the surface area is not prepped correctly, that sealer will not bond to the asphalt. It's not like one of those things where you could just go out, kind of maybe brush off the asphalt real quick, lay down the sealer, and then hope it sticks. If it's not properly cleaned, then it will not properly adhere to the surface, which means that it's going to come up. And the last thing you want to do is sell a job for $8,000, and then your material cost is $900, and then you got to go out and tell the customer, sorry, I didn't properly prep the area, and then I got to fork over another $900 in supply cost, because then you're paying double for the job. And when you would have just done it right in the first place, you would have got the achieved result. So making sure the prep work is done correctly is one of the hardest things. Also, organizing the crew. I mean, because you've got multiple people there, and you've got to constantly be focusing on job quality. But when you've got 3 or 4 other guys with you, you know, you've got to have a guy that's prepping. You got to have a guy that's crack filling. You got to have a guy that's sealing. You got to have a guy that's doing quality control, ensuring that any spots are missed are going to be fixed. So there are a lot of avenues about it that make it difficult, but if done properly, you can definitely make a pretty substantial amount of money for sure.
Absolutely. And Chris, did anything specifically go wrong on this job? Like, were there any kind of hiccups that you kind of had to work through?
There were several. There was new construction that was going on that road. So the employees were driving in the office complex. Then when they would drive through that new construction, which has a lot of red dirt, when they drive through that, then turn on the asphalt, doing that over and over for months and months during new construction, that asphalt and that hot weather continually being driven over on that asphalt makes it where that ground is dirty. And they didn't have a water source that was close enough where we could wash the ground. Then we had to get a power broom. And so there was a lot of unexpected things that had taken place. Luckily that we were prepared and we knew what we were doing. But the prep work was really the first thing. The second thing is that we ran out of sealer, and it was done on a holiday weekend. It was Memorial Day weekend when it was done. So we sealed it on Saturday, ran out of sealer, and they weren't open Monday. Then I had church on Sunday. So after church on Sunday, Monday, we came back and striped it. And then after that, I told him and sent him a picture, told him that we didn't finish edging because we ran out of sealer, informed the customer, told him that we would be back Thursday to finish it, and then got it done.
Okay, excellent. So Chris, most of the time when people see you parking lot striping, I feel like it's on concrete. Is there any differences trying to parking lot stripe on a surface like this, especially when it was just kind of sealed?
No matter what you're striping on, whether it's asphalt or concrete, the surface area does make a difference. Ideally, the smoother the surface, the more consistent the fan pattern is going to be. When you have inconsistencies in the surface area, your fan pattern is going to go in every other direction. Now, having a heavier machine will help you. So keep that in mind. Depending upon the surface area, the more that your machine weighs is going to determine the fan pattern on uneven surfaces. Luckily, we've got 3 machines now. So if it's a parking lot that's a little bit more rugged, we could just take a bigger machine out and then go get that taken care of. But it just depends. I mean, once we prepped it, crack filled, and seal coated it, of course, it definitely did make a difference on the large cracks that are in the area. So when we would stripe, it would be more consistent. So it does help for sure.
Okay, absolutely. And Chris, last question for you. You know, it looked like you had some help on this job. I know you're doing some in-person training with regards to seal coating as well as parking lot striping. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? And, you know, if anybody's interested, maybe they can learn some more information on it.
Yeah, of course. We have guys that reach out all the time about in-person training. Very few pull the trigger. Some of the most dedicated people when it comes to starting a business are the people who are educated properly. We get guys that are reaching out all the time who are not truly serious about starting a business, building a brand, scaling, so on and so forth. But we do have guys that reach out all the time that want in-person training, that want to learn the business, that are serious about building this business and building a brand. We had a guy that came out during the time span of the striping of this job. He came out for in-person training for 2 days. He learned how to set up the machine. He learned how to prep. He learned how to stripe arrows, stripe lines, handicap stencils. I mean, we put him on a job and let him do it himself. And he got the full on experience of the field work. So yeah, we've been offering in-person training for a while, and it was kind of neat, and I'm looking forward to this guy put up big numbers here in the future in his area for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Chris, thanks so much for coming on and talking a little bit about Seal Coat with us. Obviously, it's not a service that we have on a ton, but I'd love to have you back on. You know, we're gonna keep up with this and kind of see if we can't just introduce people to the service and